Hey, how's it going, guys? It is your main man here, the Source Kasuna Gaming 88 here. And now in today's video, we are going to be trying something new on my channel. So please be sure to hit that like button before we get into it. And let's just run that mixtape. Now today I came up with the idea. Now this video isn't scripted, so be sure to understand that I will be stuttering every now and then throughout this series. So because I don't really script any of my videos, I've only scripted a few of those videos, and I'm pretty sure it's obvious with how different I talk in these videos. So yeah, so today's video, well, before I get into the juice here, I wanted to lay down the idea of the series. So I wanted to go through the things that many Pokemon players understand about obtaining their skill on a higher level of gameplay. With any tactical game, you have to have a certain level of mental skill outside the game to be able to understand things quickly in the game. Now this applies to both Pokemon and Smash Brothers, but mainly Pokemon, because Pokemon is going to get to a point where Pokemon is really the only game where these categories fall under. Now today's episode will be more directed towards tactical, well, not really tactical, but predicting what your opponent is going to do. One thing that I use in real life to predict what people are going to do is body language. And when I say body language, I don't mean like, just normal body language, that things that a lot of YouTubers will tell you to look out for situational objects. When I say body language, I mean when you shake someone's hand or fist bump them, depending on their reaction, depending on all of those things that you can observe, you can kind of understand how they feel about you. So if you go for a fist bump and they just go for a fist bump back, usually they neither think of you as a friend nor an enemy. They just have this mutual feeling towards you. But with that being said, body language in Pokemon is really hard to read, simply because Pokemon, you might not always be across from your opponent. You might be over the internet with your opponent. But body language still exists over the internet, and let me tell you why. With Pokemon, it gets to a certain barrier, because it's literally impossible to predict what your opponent's going to do based on their body language. But Pokemon, what I like to call body language as Pokemon is the layout of their team, the synergy, the level of Pokemon they bring. Now when I say level of Pokemon they bring, I don't mean like tiers of Smogon, because personally I don't really follow Smogon, but Smogon does still have a bit of an influence on what I personally don't like to battle and what I'm fine with battling against. So with that being said, in Pokemon, the team layout is very important to the body language of the team. Now, the body of the team will be the Pokemon that they don't lead with. The head of the team, which is the lead of the team, is pretty much the face. So therefore, the head of the team will be the eyes. Based on what they lead with, you can actually predict how they battle, what their battle style is. But that's completely dependent on the layout of their team. If they have, say they start out with a fake out user, and if they don't lead with the fake out user, then you must assume that the fake out user does not have fake out. Now don't just jump the gun and say that the fake out user 100% doesn't have fake out, but you can make that assumption safely, because without leading with a fake out user or a stealth rock user, stealth rock and fake out kind of have the same, fundamentation. Pretty much anything that they use to set up and that can affect you later in the battle on a very terminal stance or viewpoint. If they don't lead with stealth rock or fake out, then you can just make the safe assumption that they're going with another type of setup, or that they're not really at a higher level peak of gameplay. So, but the same thing can also be said in reverse. A lot of people, they kind of don't know the fundamentals of the game, so they just think that, yeah, fake out will work against this team. But you could be carrying a mono rock / ground or whatever team, a team that fake out wouldn't really matter against, And if they lead with fake out against your team, and your team isn't affected by not fake out, stealth rocks. If they lead with stealth rocks against your team and your team isn't really too badly affected by it, you can actually safely assume that they're not much of a higher level of player. Um, you can make all of these assumptions based on what they lead with and based on the first move that they use, whether it's fake out or stealth rocks. So it's really a two-way thing. Based on your team and based on their team, you can actually assume how the battle will go, and it applies to whether or not they use higher level Pokemon than you or lower level Pokemon than you. Like I said, it gets to very fundamental layers, so always keep this in mind, and always be ready for some curves and oddballs, because there are some very unique sets, and I can prove that just by how I run a very complicated set on my Alolan Persian as well as my Alolan Muck. I carry some very disgusting sets that people never see. That way they can't really read me based on body language in Pokemon. So that being the body language. And the thing is, you can also read your opponent based on how long it takes for them to choose a move the first turn, and whether or not they have U-turn, they switch, whatever. But the thing is, with body language in Pokemon, I like to say that the lead is definitely going to be the eyes. You can compare the back Pokemon to the body, and it's always like that. So the start of each greet with someone, the way you greet someone is with a handshake. So I like to call the lead Pokemon the eyes of the handshake. The battle itself will be the handshake, and the Pokemon that you and your opponent lead with will be the eyes. And depending on whether or not you two make eye contact, can also depend on whether or not you are on a certain level with that person in real life versus in Pokemon. So you can actually compare Pokemon to real life in very, very complicated ways. And this is the analogy I like to use in Pokemon. Now, it might be weird for you guys, but just please let me know if this helped you guys in the comments. And yeah, now that will probably be it for this episode, because we're already getting to a very extended amount of time for this episode. So next episode, I'll be talking about predicting your opponent in a more in-depth way. Now, this episode is more so predicting your opponent based on the start of the battle. Next time, I'll be showing you guys how to predict your opponent based on what you already know, in the case that you already know how your opponent battles. And yeah, and I'll also be breaking down the different types of battlers. But please be sure to leave a like if this video helped you in any way, or if this video was even entertaining. And comment down below your ideas of how you battle and the analogies that you use in Pokemon. But be sure to follow those links in the description if there are any. And peace out. Have yourselves a great one, and roll that outro.